and welcome back to Rainbow Six Bravo. Wowee, wasn't that an amazing panel of cool things to come? But we still have a lot of a tournament left, and that excitement will have to wait because we have 2 games left on this stream at least, and on the other, and this one is going to be a bit of a banger. NIP versus Soniqs.
Yeah, and that is going to be a very important one as well. NIP, of course, the reigning world champions, started a little bit out of form. Only after that, on Twitter was like, trust me, they're a tournament team. And we're going to have to see that right here. As the Soniqs, well, they suffered a loss, and they are desperately looking as well to get a win at least today.
And it's always the way with Soniqs' loss too, because it was against BDS, it was against a very strong side, and it wasn't a great opening on club for them earlier on in the day. They had some good moments, they had some good connections, but NA overall hasn't really had a great day. It's been a tough one, it's been a bit of a rocky road, and here they're going to see if they can try and swing some of that momentum back into the region's favor. There are moments, there are possibilities, and there's still a bit of fire in what is still a very young squad to the major scene.
That's it, right? There is not that much international experience in that case, but they're starting to gather it because, they went to the Mexico Major. They, had a bit of a disappointing performance there, and they want to do better. They want to show they have improved compared to those times. And, well, this will be a very good opportunity to do so. Going up against the world champions who, are always a team that you can just not count out of the games until it's actually over.
That's the tough thing with NIP, though, because it's one of those strange little dances a team does in building up towards this sort of situation is, are they out of shape and out of form? Is it the changes in the recall and the meta that have struck them so hard? Or is it because of the difference in the system? And here, these are the 5 players they're going to see if they can keep that mantle of supremacy that they waved at SI. Because, to be fair, we've seen some other great teams from their region, and they are sort of stumbling.
They are, but that's kind of the thing we've always been talking about as well. Due to the way that LATAM works, you do not really need to perform if you already performed in the first 2 stages. Your qualification starts to get closer and closer as that progresses. And NIP, of course, being here, did not really have to show too much until, of course, the moments it mattered. They were there at that very moment, and now here at the Major again, looking to pick up yet another title and do so for Brazil as well.
Now, obviously, their game earlier today was against Invictus and did not get off to the best start. Invictus put so much pressure down. They were able to scream themselves into a great position, and they've done that to NIP before. They've almost beat NIP before, and it's this sort of continual story. But then NIP were able to bounce back and put the pressure down themselves. So here, are we going to see that same story? Are Soniqs going to suffer what was an awakening of a team that has been a bit sharp with them before? Because if we're going to look at Soniqs as a young team, if we're going to sort of highlight the fact that their only real online player was at Mexico recently, the only team that they did beat was Team 1, was a Latin America team.
Yeah, definitely so. And while they're coming up against one more now, it's going to be Bank. What again? Surprise, actually, we are going to Bank.
So the stats today was given to us by Easy, our wonderful observer. 5 plays of Bank on the B stream today.
Yeah, so that is the B stream. That is the majority.
There's been 2 maps that haven't been Bank on
I've already heard on the other stream as well. Parker and Pangu were like, we're in Bank again.
Yeah, Pangu was like, this is the map I didn't play recently competitively, and I keep having to analyze it. So he's really been thrown in the deep end. I do want to say, I know I tweeted it earlier, that obviously I'm loving all of this and Talented smashing it.
Yeah.
But Penguin and Fresh coming in on their first major on this side of things, especially, they are doing such a good job.
They are doing an incredible job indeed. And let's see what kind of a job these players will do. 79% think that NIP will take it home, whereas 21% of the fans, they have a feeling that Soniqs, they might surprise here against the current reigning world champion. So, as we get going, the operator phase or ban phase will be first. And Soniqs get the choice of the first attacking operator. Now we might see some of the Heartbreach removed again. No, it's the Thatcher for now. And that means that it is going to be just a little bit harder to open the hatches, but not impossible.
Yeah, it becomes trickier, but it's one of those, I guess we have such a great pool of bank data to pull from. It's not one of the biggest impact plays in terms of controlling all of the places. You said hatches, sure, you still have teams that go for the default takes, but most teams are going for these bigger plays. Talking of, NIP removing the Nook, getting that off the board. Not really a huge play from the pockets of Soniqs too recently.
No, I mean, they have played it, just not really to much effect so far in D major. And as the next band is about to be coming in, it's a defensive one. It's going to be Valkyrie. I understand that choice. Just removing those cams, remove the opportunity to go for these flanks, for these roams on those floors above or below. It's going to be making it a little bit easier for the attack to try and clear out. And, you know, if you ban a Thatcher, the Cade often follows.
It's tradition.
It's tradition.
It's traditional, and it is standard. What I will say is, from some of the bans that we've had throughout the day so far, we have seen a limitation on hard destruction, which has caused some fun play. It's, you know, as soon as the Ace and the Hibana are gone, which has been a ban set we've seen, you're looking at corners like Kanto, you're looking at the awkward situations from range where there is that little bit of necessary hard destruction, but at the same time, in how a lot of teams like to play this and how a lot of teams like to push this, it's not the biggest ask. Bandit on the board for the Star from open area hold with the extension and the lockdown that we're expecting to see here. This could be a very sturdy lock-in that they're going to try and push here from Soniqs. And to be fair, where NIP have struggled is time management.
Yeah, that's been the age-old story ever since and before the 6th Invitational this year. Managing that time, making sure that the utility gets taken care of before it starts to become an issue. And Soniqs, well, they've had a rough matchup, but now they need to show that they have the opportunity to stall as much time as you possibly can against NIP, because honestly, that is the secret. That's their kryptonite. Manage to stall out, you win the round. You win your round, you win your round.
Win your round.
It's as simple as that.
It's a simple equation.
It is, to some extent. I like this actually, so you know, normally the mute will be used here, but as we've seen before today, there is a bit of a gap that comes up in that case, so you just use the bandit batteries instead, and there's no gap suddenly anymore, so we'll have to use a grenade, toss that over to start opening up a small bit.
Okay, I'm going to do that rare thing, because all casters are infallible and nothing we say is wrong, but what I do like is, if we're going to highlight, and I said at the beginning that a Thatcher ban here can't be the biggest impact, if Soniqs are going to play into it, like this Bandit lineup, which you don't see too often, like these sort of stretches, okay, my curiosity has peaked, because it's not just removing the Bandit, but it's playing back into a game that, again, is working against NIP's weakness of slowing them down, causing them issues. For a lot of other teams, it might not be a big problem. For NIP, as they go for the second round round, it might be something that starts to stutter them.
You could definitely start to stutter them. As they're starting to clear out, some yellow pings will be pre-fired, but unfortunately no one there anymore. One of the X-Scars actually got taken care of there, as Grixer is the first one to fall. It's Psycho already inside of the elevator here, taking some control of that top floor portion of the map, but there's still a bit more to take. And Raxon, of course, with that cardiac sensor, has the opportunity to guide 2 or 3 of these 3 C4s up towards the ceiling and potentially pick up a kill, but he needs to be very careful because he just got spotted there.
Now, Raxon's trying to get the read of anyone else that might be playing around the top of square. Yeti is going to be a bit of a blatant play there, but the grenade rolled down perfectly. Couldn't quite get the connection. Muzi's safe to get another one. As they tried to sliver their way back into the archives, they couldn't quite get the connection there, and suddenly everything's starting to fall away from the Soniqs. They're going to see if they can put a bit of a blow with the C4 underneath, but it's dangerous territory because of the pressure NIP is putting flat across the ground. Though it was an opening on the wall, they're still going to send some drones in and see if they can get a bit of a collapse round onto those stacks inside the core of this floor. But a minute 10 and NIP have been able to really punish those swings in aggression.
This normally does not count under the time issue we have seen so far. Kansan, with a rotation all the way to the bottom floor, will be rotating back up to the main stairs. Pino will take some damage from Super, but as you said, loads of time left for NIP here, 50 seconds, and all they need to do is close out these basically 1v-axes, really, to make sure that they have a good opportunity of locking off this first round. It's only the first round, but you know how important those may be. Muzi gets a bit of a taste of where one of the members is. It's Super that takes the first shot there, but Kansan with the first kill, and he's rotating all the way up, and that is going to be a good opportunity to go for a potential flank.
Super gets one more and starts to put some pressure back into the side of NIP, who are trying to do their slow creep round onto the big kitchen doors. There's a pop round, there's Super, shuts the door, can't quite get one more. It's technically a 2 versus 1, but with only 10 seconds left, they're going to see if they can try and stick the diffuser. Repositioning and gives the game away on the location. They'll know exactly where he is. They're going to try and stick it. The C4 doesn't get the catch, but he's up. Now he's going to see if he can stick it down. Julio has the cover. Going to see if he can put the pressure on the swing. Moves off at the last second. Can't quite get the connection. It's a lockdown anyway. And NIP just pull it back, but almost Soniqs clutching that one out.
That was so close there indeed. Soniqs on the back of Super as well. Almost managed to take that one home. They managed to, of course, put a bit of damage and a bit of a dent into the final approach of NIP in that 2v5, turning into a 3v2, which, of course, eventually turned back their way. But there was a lot of stress right there, especially as soon as they wanted to get the plan down. Did not really seem to be working out too well. Just a bunch of nice kills. That grenade first, but Kansan as well. Good realization there that they needed to rotate all the way up to that top floor to potentially go for a strike. And if they would have planted on the actual kitchen side, he would have been able to end that round and drop the diffuser. But NIP, well, they realized where he was coming from and decided to quickly use the little time they had left to reposition that box.
Back to Staff and Open they go. They're going to see if they can try and keep it down with a similar sort of lockout strategy. A little bit of a change. Obviously, Rexon on the alibi is going to try and cause some problems in the spray of things, but to be fair, you know, now it's just a matter of seeing if they can reposition their early moments. If they cannot suffer from the pace that was applied by Psycho up the main stairs on the spiral sort of turn, that as an early blow without any sort of contestation or any sort of bite back, it's just a strange... Okay, it's not a strange loss, but it's a strange positioning to be that as the first drive.
For sure. So the Soniqs, they just continue strongly, so that they are going back to the same site. Something we haven't seen too much yet today. Normally, as soon as a site was lost, teams decided to, all right, time to continue the rotation like we would have won it, and that would be it. But Soniqs deciding to go for a similar approach here. Same site, same bandits, for example, being put down. All they just need to make sure of is that this time they don't lose 2 of these players this early on.
Well, Grixa is playing to a little bit of safety here on the back of the staircase, but hey, look at that. It's Psycho getting all the read on the intel as they try and creep round. They can't quite get anything more, and Grixa's safe from the read and the readout of exactly where they are, but they're still going to allow NIP to drone themselves into the front lobby. They had quick pace in getting that first fight, and they know that they probably can't do the same thing. Well, to be honest, there's not much point. There's nobody up there. Right now, they have the read and the idea that there wasn't anyone there, and that gives them a bit of comfort as that minute goes, but at this point, they'd already been able to take a body.
Yokai there giving away a bit of information. Pino will be spotted up on that top floor and starts opening up the ceiling. Used, of course, to force out the key positions of these defenders, make sure that they are moved out of the archives, out of the tellers, to make sure that at least that part of the map will be secured. Pino has no clue how close he is. Actually, he does. Spots out Super, takes off his head. It's going to be the entry frag here for NIP. Can they build on top of this one?
It's dangerous. A Buck working pretty fervently across the top of the boards is able to make sure most of those boards aren't left standing. And now, as the hatches have some attention paid to them, they're going to see if they can try and get a bit of a collapse down onto Open itself. They're looking for an angle, looking for a roll, and looking to see if there's a particular body they can stop, but there's no catch to be made. And as we see the fight that starts to potentially spill out onto that open hopping window that was ignored before, it's sprays I'm not quite sure where from, and neither's Rexon.
Well, that is all the way from the archives there, the player that has quite a bit of a long angle, Psycho. Is still looking to try and punish one of these Soniqs players. NIP, they have a 2-minute advantage here and a 45 seconds left on the clock as Rexon will finally be able to find one. Pino, however, responds back by Grixer. He just pops up on the top of the blue stairs. He's trying to rotate all the way back out. Of course, has some yokais to play with here, but he's going to be going to fight there. Gets challenged, goes back into the yokai, needs to get them in position if he wants to stop these plans from happening, but realizes that's not going to be happening, so he needs to rotate all the way back up. The question is, will he be able to get this clutch to work?
Well, the alarm bells and the signal on a drone gives an impression of where he is, and that's a very strong, sturdy wall to try and break their way through. Pops a pre-fire and catches Psycho for the trouble, but there's still 2 more players, and these 2 aren't going to hand themselves over so easily. They're on the back far side, and as flashes start to roll around to just waste a little bit more time, they know where he is. They know the game that they need to play here. 19 seconds that ticks closer and closer, but not much closer as Julio locks it off.
A healthy long angle there through the Prisma even. What an accurate amount of shots there. It didn't even hit the hologram there. Just managed to get in through those, that little gap between them and the bomb site. And with that, secure NIP their second round. Onto the attack, mind you, because we've seen some attack-sided maps here today. NIP will continue that trend in that case. The question, of course, will be, how will their defense be on this map? LATAM is a map, or a region rather, that used to play this map so often back in the day, right? Yeah. Right before the rework. They absolutely loved this map. And is that coming into fruition now? Is all that experience that they had back then just being rekindled up to this international stage here, where, well, currently their attacks seem pretty strong. Soniqs not really able to do much about it. We said it before, like, time management should be the issue of NIP, but with 45 seconds left every single time, they start to execute with a 2 or 3 minute advantage, so it goes quite well.
Okay, Soniqs, things have started to slip away from you, but it's still early doors, it's still early in the game, and it's still Banger, which has lent itself well to attackers. In fact, most of today, unless it's been a sweep and a stomp, has generally been steady statistical standards of attack has done well, and I think that's sort of the curiosity of this meta, is we used to once upon a time say that the defenders were in the generally meta spot, especially in these matchups where it's all built around knowledge and all built around fodder view. But at this minute, because of that sort of bias and basis, attackers have such a good stead right now.
It's definitely seeming to be a bit more attack-sided nowadays than compared to in the old days, of course, where the defense would really have to get 4 rounds and a half, or otherwise it would have almost been certain already that they would have lost that game. It's a bit more fluid now. Some teams are truly attack-sided, some teams are truly defense-sided. Some, of course, have a healthy mix in the middle. Are often the teams that manage to do quite well on the international stage, because then everything does not rely on that singular help. That's a jump out! Yeti that gets Julio. Instantly gets traded out by Pino, however. So a 4-on-4. However, you have lost your Heartbreach. You have lost the X-Scarlets that you can no longer use.
Yet he took a gamble, took a sort of potential, and to be fair, now's the moment, now's the time. 2 rounds have gone away from you, start to try new things, live a bit dangerously. It's first kill on the board, and it was one of the things where we sort of came into this with the conversations with the NA casters, is a big problem that Soniqs face is Yeti and Rexen not quite having the consistency. On the game days they show up, it's huge. On this sort of setup, it's tricky.
Pino just has a free jump in there as Psycho gets Rexen. He was playing the mirror window, and I was about to say, look at those castle barricades. Pino has the opportunity to just jump in. It's just that Kansan is there right now that has the opportunity to try and one-punch that window and try and take a gunfight as a result, because otherwise, well, Pino just has some free reign here. Quickly lands upon his drone, seeing if it's in the right position for the flank drone position, and as Kamikaze starts opening up towards the default plant spot. Surely soon, NIP will collapse onto that side, run in deep and try and get that defuser down as Kansan, well, he's making some extra holes right here. They're making extra angles. They want to challenge it, but they have no clue what is about to strike them.
Bit of a breathing moment here for NIP as they find themselves able to pull a couple of bodies back into their favor, obviously, after what was a pretty aggressive jump out at the beginning, but still, it's something that scarpers the progress, which could lead to negative results. It's the thing I sort of said about Bandit earlier, where if they're trying to slow down NIP, potentially breaking that game and that medal and mantle that they love to forge into success could be the thing that makes the wheel a little bit wonky and not quite run as straight to the finish as it wants to. down a corridor locked and blocked by the castle windows. Across the quick jump there, they can't quite get to the end of the banana that's otherwise pulled off, but has to stop firing as Grixer locks open and locks down Kamikaze. Diffuser cold, and so is another NIP player, but Psycho at least gets one back. 15 seconds, have to try and dig their way across. Kansan has an eye, and there's a pickup on the movement, and there's a heck of a take. It's a 2 versus 1, but the 1 is an echo. You wonder if they have a drone or the eye. They have an idea, but so does Musi.
Managed to get it in the end there. I was going to say Super in a crucial position, able to rotate back into the Janitor, has that mirror window to play with to shut down any plant attempt that might have been coming down. And after that, we saw that punch as well to come through from the Aruni onto the castle barricade, just to make sure that it was going to be Pino to be punished for it. And yet somehow NIP, they managed to make it work. They managed to get the kills through as quickly heading through those replays. That is how they cleared out Janitor at the start. That is how Pino managed to be picked up, and somehow it was NIP that was still able to bring it back around. Win the round, and with that put themselves up 0-3. Now the Soniqs, they will be heading down towards that bottom floor, a site that, according to some teams, is not really as viable anymore as it used to be back in the day. Not because of the changes that really happened, because of the meta that has shifted.
I think that's the conversation as well, and it's something that I've highlighted during the casts of Bank, the many that we've had today.
The many ones, yeah.
The many ones we've had today, is that the biggest difference we see comparing this Bank and this style of play on it to how it used to be isn't the changes of the map. It's the change of the meta. Is we didn't get the comparison, we didn't get the transition journey from the heavy turtle meta of burning through many ADSs to see where you're at, which is what the meta was at. Even like between that, this is like 3 or 4 metas we've had a shift on, and it's that sudden awakening, like you found yourself in the future, Doc, when you have to try and find a way to go back.
It's funny how that works, really. How just a couple of operators and a difference suddenly makes sites more defendable or less attackable, rather. And that truly happened here. Of course, the bottom floor not really as viable anymore as it used to be before, but the bottom floors, or the first floors rather, those are suddenly within favorites of many of the teams, whereas the open area was almost never played before. So definitely some nice little developments here and there. Rexon, in the meantime, however, he's looking to go for that first gunfight onto the top of square. There's the spot down there, but gets spotted himself as well. But due to the ERC7 is allowed to rotate all the way back down, and they're probably not going to be fully aware of that.
And as they creep their way back down, they still have a lot of holes and a lot left to do in terms of taking and putting the pressure on. And Soniqs, they're trying to stretch that. They're trying to put a little bit of a slow and a start into the approach of NIP. They've tried it a couple times already, and what they've tried hasn't quite worked. It's been close, but close is not a scratch on the top of the board. They've got to see what they can translate here, and with Yeti still playing around the middle, sort of playing against the drones and seeing if he can pull a bit of success on the flow. They have another body to back up inside open as well, and IP is looking for an access that they haven't quite found yet.
Still 1 minute 26 on the clock though, so if they manage to clear out this player inside of the open area, suddenly it's starting to look a lot better for them as the Nitro is being tossed out here by Yeti. He's desperately trying to hold on to that first floor here, and he's digging himself in even deeper into the cubicles with, of course, Super and Rexon in positions to aid, well, more so with the Nitro rather than the actual gun power available to them. And Musi, while spraying in from above, is getting quite close, but just needs to hold on.
Pino gets the opener, and Julio follows it up with one more, and that suddenly cuts a lot of the hold in, because it's not just what they've got above, but the pressure that might be coming down from below. Rexon is trying his best to put some suppressing fire back down and does a lot of damage to Julio, but look, NIP is stacking up more success, more bodies, and more possibility of danger. It's a man in a corner with a lot of LATAM around, finds one, drops down and tries to dig in just for one more, but they're on every single side. They are in the walls, and there is nowhere to go, and Super suddenly finds himself with a lot of silence.
There's a couple of 100 rounds used there to try and take care of Rexon, but he got him in the end, and now they will be well aware of the fact that he's right behind the mirror window. That was actually not a Yana replicator. That was the real deal. Just shot a couple of bullets in it. Did not expect it to be the real one. And managing to lock off that round as well. NIP, they are on a steamroll right now, really showing up big here on this bank. 4 rounds in a row. That is not at all how they started off against Invictus.
No, and I think that's the sort of difference here. As I said, it might be a problem for Soniqs that NIP struggled earlier on in the day, because we've seen teams that struggled in Game 1 start to put some pressure down into Game 2. And going against Invictus, a team that has pushed NIP to the mantle and the brink before for them to then go on and find some success, this could be one of those stories where, unfortunately, for Soniqs, they got a warm-up game, and Soniqs, they had a tough opener against BDS, and here, well, they're having a tough opener against NIP as well.
Definitely a tough opener of the first half. We're 4 rounds through. All 4 of them have been won by NIP. And as the tactical pause is being called out, the coach is having the opportunity to speak in this case. So does the rest of the lineup. They have the opportunity to try and figure out what is currently going wrong. But if you're just looking at it, they're basically being outgunned by NIP as well. They just do their own thing to try and hold their ground, but they get taken out whilst they do. And NIP, well, they leave it till those last 30 seconds, but then they all come together as a team. You saw it before. They don't just take the one-on-ones with Rexon whilst he's stuck in there. They wait till 4 players are in a position to strike all at the same time, and that's when they hit him. And that's when they get him with only just that singular loss they've had.
Now Super is trying to break things down for a team that's, again, had a bit of a tough day. And to be fair, in terms of the group, the storyline that you sort of build in with them is they are still a very young team. For NA, it's a lot of young gunners that are coming into what is one of the most experienced groups in what they have to go up against. And their opening day was against 2 of the most experienced teams in the entirety of the competition and Siege in general. You're up against not only a champion, but a heavy contender to a lot of different titles they've been close to, and they're your opener 2 on the day. It's tricky for anybody, and as a team that had your first international experience recently and took it as a learning experience, which is what you do, took a map against the eventual champions, which is fantastic, it's still a very tough first day.
It's definitely a tough first day to go up against a favorite and that champion. And you could almost also say about a team like BDS, a champion in the making. It's just that we don't know yet which championship it is.
Champion? They've been a champion in the making for like 3
years or something, but we don't know what championship it is yet. It will come at some point. We're almost definitely sure of that, but who knows? Maybe we'll find out soon as Muzi escapes death here. Slowly started creeping around. The stock now gets stuck in a bit of a mental trade there. Jumps over in the end, and Rexon, well, he will be getting outside of the stock as well in a position, an opportunity to rotate back down towards safety. There's actually Yeti that will be picking up Muzi. Jump out or run out from Yeti, an aggressive peek will be the death of him.
To be fair, it's the first time we've seen Soniqs take the opener and not have it instantly traded out. It's the first time we've seen them able to punish NIP as an opener as well, without it having to be a play that comes at a sacrifice. And it's against a player that we just saw lock off a round that could have been something Soniqs locks in. Psycho is holding a close angle. He's been dangerous whenever he's been able to get himself into these close, little, short fire positions, and as Super is the next name off the board, it's now the creep of Yeti round on the backside to see if he can bite back. Rexon makes some work down on the staircase, and Pino retreats to the top floor, but a minute 30 and a bit of a tail between legs. They've got to try and rebuild it.
That's it, they need to try and rebuild whatever is left in this round. Pino, low on HP, Julio and Kamikaze are still left. They are still all full. A lot of damage is done there onto Grixer. There's the opportunity there to at least, finish him off with just a singular bullet. Something maybe as well for Rexon, maybe 2 for him, however. So there is definitely the opportunity to quickly balance back the body count here. They need to be careful with it. They cannot really give away too much space themselves, but they need to be quick at the same time as well.
A minute on, and I would say for the first time we've seen NIP struggle, but there's a lot of time to build an idea, and that's one. Hey, I found a man on a drone and a ping. Can we get something there to apply some pressure? It puts them in an idea, and an idea can build to some momentum, and that is the drive that they're potentially going to hit next. Opens up an angle, and they'll rotate as they're going to potentially hop down to the little window on the open swing. It gives them a pinch and gives them some pressure that they can apply to where that bandit was. However, he has since drifted off, and Kamikaze is actually the one to lock it off. Creeps towards the kitchen door, ready to swing around forevermore, but there's still work to be done. A close nitro doesn't quite net what they want, and as the pings start to come through NIP, it's now or never.
It's now or never indeed. 15 seconds left on the clock. It's Rexon to pick up one more. It's Grixer in a very good position as well. Only up to Kamikaze, but he's in the middle of the site right now. Gets spotted out by some of these Prismas here. Needs to decide what to do soon. Gets that first kill. That doesn't get the second. Grixer swings in and gets that one. That's going to be the first round of the Soniqs here on this matchup so far. It took up until round number 5 before they finally were able to find it. But it is definitely a good start, and that is something that might save them in the long run. You never know how that second half is going to be playing out. At least they will not be fighting for overtime throughout the entire half and have an opportunity to win it in regulation. Never know. Either way, still a round to go. No tactical timeouts being called, and NIP, they all have it under control so far. The executive lounge in the CEO office will be coming up next here for the Soniqs. And NIP, well, they just have to attack that top floor again. They successfully did so once before, but you have to say it was a bit of a clutch almost. Because Super, he was in a good position to stop it from happening. The planter got denied at the very first moment, but somehow they managed to turn around a 3-on-2 situation into a 2-on-1 in just a matter of seconds. And of course, managed to close that out as the scoreline managed to increase in their favor. And round number 6 will be another opportunity here for NIP to try and get that 5th round in. And the Soniqs, well, they want to try and salvage whatever is left and, you know, practice some damage control.
Can Soniqs replicate what they did before and at least pull a second round before they have to try and put the pressure onto Bank here? And if I'm going to sort of cite Bank as a map and the history that it holds, it was always a great Latin America map. It was always a big map for the region.
It definitely was. A lot of people actually just, you know, when they heard Bank, they were like, Latin America. Like, that's it. It's just Latam. It's their map. And, well, they would like to continue that. You can almost say, just like when Chile was introduced to the map, it would be considered an NA map during the 6th invitation, up until the very final moments, of course, in the very final few games. However, putting up some pressure here, a lot of utility is being picked up by ADSs. There's 3 next to the window. I'm wondering how many of those got destroyed. Just 2 of them. And the window will stay put for now. And the ADS has reactivated again. Psycho hears that. He knows there needs to be another throwable if they want to get rid of that one.
Huge amount of utility for not a huge amount of game, unfortunately, there. They tried to burn everything in the castle that they could, but the grenade didn't quite catch underneath. Rolled a little bit too far away from those windows to drop it. Rexon, he slips away, but not very far as he's picked up by the drop of Musi. There was the overreach and overarch of Soniqs, and it couldn't quite connect with what was a lockdown from NIP in terms of the intel across the board underneath. They tried to be a bit sharp and a bit aggressive, but unfortunately for them, NIP were aware of this play and now have that square control.
Keep in mind the grenades we had during the last round as well were able to pick up the Amira player inside of the janitor, so that is something Soniqs needs to be well aware of. That might be one of those default grenades that NIP will be trying to attempt to yet once more clear out that area, as Kanza is being spotted down there and actually gets tagged up just ever so slightly as well. It's Pino that is still active on that window. The exothermic will go off, and Kamikaze, he knows that there's going to be an opportunity to plant soon as they have the janitor under control.
Kanzen suffers a little bit more, but he is not entirely out, just quite injured. As the burn starts to come towards the back line of Yeti, he knows smart enough to move away from the potential of the grenades. As we said, they have that square control, and that is the box that they're going to see if they can open up across the site from this side. Kamikaze is in a position where he wants to try and swing behind the bulletproof chassis, but where Super is with the chance of a swing, it's dangerous. Pino's able to just pick up Yeti by swinging along the windows, and that backline's gone, but Kanzen finds one before dropped, and now it is just the single player of Grixer. The Echo has been able to retake the potential of the mantle, but he was the last standing last time, and, well, it was a similar sort of result there. Locked off by NIP to find themselves a 5-1 half.
Didn't even have to enter the site. They were just all around it, holding the angles, just waiting for the Soniqs to go aggressive, to start bringing these peaks and these gunfights towards them, and they just outgunned them as a result. 5-1 is the current split here for NIP, and well, they will be more than happy with that one. Heading into round number 7 now. They will be on the defense themselves. You can take a gamble which site we go to first. It will be the first floor site. It will be staff and open area. We're not going to that basement. Not yet, at least. We might see it a little bit later on.
Well, Soniqs, what can you do on the turn of the half? Do you have more in your attack pockets on this bank to be able to put some damage down? Because it hasn't been great, and that's tough and it's tricky because they have been trying things. They have been going for adaptations and they were attempting stuff, and it just wasn't quite connecting. NIP, whether it was the drive or the intel, as you said, the gun skill has generally been something that this map and this game has lent more into NIP's favor. Across a server that generally has a lot of great gunners on both teams, the duo for Soniqs of Rex and Grixer that has driven a huge amount of their play throughout NAL, they haven't quite been able to dig into this.
But that's it, right? Just look at that last round as well. There's just Pino that is just holding a window and is able to catch up 2 or 3 different players from just that single window by holding these angles. How do you challenge that? You need to go for a pre-fire in that case, but you need to be so accurate, because if you miss that pre-fire, you are going to get your head removed from your body there, and that's exactly what makes Pino this great fragger on the side of NIP so far. That is why they are currently leading 1-5, not just because of him, but because of the entire team really showing up when it's necessary. I'm wondering, however, are we going to be seeing some upside-down repels through the lobby? We've seen it quite a bit today, actually. We've never seen it before, and suddenly people start rappelling down these skylights.
It's a gamble, it's a play, and it's a bit of a risk, but at the same time, sometimes taking these risks is what leads to the success in the bite, because that little space just on the inside of Banana, that top and the swing is where the danger can come to. Now, as they try and put the pressure here across towards the janitor's side, Kamikaze is locked in, but the mute jam is going to mean that they do not pop off.
And they definitely don't for now. Psycho is close in the area as well, has the opportunity to provide some support if they do actually start detonating, and can just shoot them off the mirror window as a result. But he's well aware of the fact that one of these members of the Soniqs is repelled up onto those windows. Muzi is single-handedly trying to hold off to the stock. He spots out one of the players, but he needs to make sure that he stays alive. He doesn't have a C4, he doesn't have any impacts to use, just the MP5 in his hands right now. He drops the hatch, chooses safety, chooses his life over the potential frag, the potential glory that comes with it, because he knows that he's so much more valuable in an actual fight that is in his favor.
Psycho suffers a little bit, but you gotta look at the timer at this moment in time. NIP aren't handing themselves over to the firefight. They're not quite going for the confrontation. They're hoping they can push it until that final throw. Soniqs have a spare round in case things go awry from them, and they've got to try and lead into that pressure with a little bit of their own here. As the minute mark starts to come across, they're finally going to see if they can clear some of this top floor, but there's still a C4 in the pocket of at least player. Not sure if the other two are just pre-placed or utilized. I haven't heard too much in terms of explosives as of yet, so as you said, that's a risk, it's a danger, and it's going to potentially slow down this take.
It's another pre-placed C4 there. You can see it on the HUD on the right top of your screen. One of them just blew up right next to the outside windows. There you have it, that big hole there. That was one of those nitros. Wasn't able to catch any of the Soniqs players off so far, but just look at the amount of drones left. Just 2 of them with 30 seconds left on the clock. There's not much utility for them to try and clear and find these 5 players with. They don't know if there's any flank still going on currently. They just need to trust on their gun skill. They just need to trust in their attacks into the process. And as Grixer is the first one to be finding themselves quite close to the site, he's the first one to potentially find gunfights here as well.
15 seconds and he's moving as silently as the G in Lasagna, but he gets cut down and eaten all up. 5 seconds left and it's a 4 versus 2. Super and Rexin, well, just Super tries to stick it in the smoke, but there is no way that's landing, and now there is one way for this game to go in Soniqs' favor, and that is to sweep every round in front of them.
Yeah, it is a match point for NIP, not just a singular one, Emmy. It will be 5 of them in a row, and that means that Soniqs, they need to gap that bridge. They need to get 5 rounds in a row if they want to bring it to overtime. And well, then they need to win the sprint of the best of 3. That comes right after. Not in maps, in rounds. Don't worry, guys. If we're going to overtime, we do not suddenly turn this whole match into a best of 3. That's not how it works. No, it's just the 3 rounds that come afterwards. And they need to get 2 out of 3 in those ones. So in total, they need to win 7 rounds out of the next 8, but not lose 1 within the next 5. I just made it a lot more difficult.
You did! You overcomplicated it, but to be fair,
mathematical equation.
The mission is simple, Agent Soniqs. win every single round in front of you and don't stop winning. And that is tricky because I assume, wanted to see a little bit more pace from their side. You could see that they were trying to find an inroad on NIP. They sort of bit at a couple of moments. They tried to dig at a couple of players, and the tell is where the diffuser was moving 30 seconds still on the roof left, and it becomes this risky situation of you've just got to try and stick it at that point. And you compare it with their takes earlier on in the day, where sure, the game didn't quite go in their favor, but the confidence that they had on trying to get an execute early on against BDS was a lot of time left on it and boots inside the ground of the site itself. Here, unfortunately, it seems they've hit a bit of a lull and a bit of a slow, and it's a tough ask to try and now pull this one back.
It for sure is, and well, it is going to be the NIPs, or the Ninjas, in the Pyjamas that want to try and lock it off on that top floor. They want to lock it off in the CEO office. And, well, Kansan, this is about as far as your drone can go, because if you move it any further, it's going to be picked up by that pest. They're going to be shooting it, though, just to clear out that piece of utility. Get a second drone and just barely sticks, though, onto the ceiling there. But you have to be careful that it doesn't get spotted from that mirror window, because they're actively watching it.
They are, and it should only be a moment before that swings round. The Echo is on the board as well. It's going to offer a little bit more pressure, and we've seen that already be used as an aggressive intel tool. Something you can move around and give yourself a little bit of a grab and ask and utility pull towards the pressure. Now on the top of the square, they have an angle and an idea of what they want to do here. They're weighing it up, and the first falls. This is already a much better success story than it was last time, because previously, as I said, they were biting but not catching anything. This time they've got that first take, and that's going to force NIP to have to play a little bit more of an idea towards the pressure of Soniqs.
Now, Pino was just hunting. He spotted that drone. You saw it earlier on. He pulled out the pest crossbow. Wanted to really get that one, but failed to do so. And as a result, when hunting inside the lobby. Meantime, Soniqs, they're hunting on the other side of the map. They want to open up. They want to go for a plant, but as Kansan picks up Psycho, it's Kamikaze with a C4. That takes care of Super. At least the wall has been opened up. They do not have to worry about that anymore. There is the opportunity to go for the plant, but Julio in a very good position to stop anybody from repelling in, really, from these windows. And as Kamikaze is going quite aggressive right here, has the opportunity to pick up the kill. Somehow does it. Drops the diffuser out once more before he gets traded out. It's only up to Julio now. He's in a 1-on-3 situation. Gets the first one. It's a beautiful shot to go through. The diffuser is still dropped. 50 seconds. They need to be re-entering the building here. And Julio, well, he needs to know. He needs to have this information as well.
46 seconds and the swing comes round on the first, but it's a great shot from Grixa from deep, and from the bottom they're able to start their potential climb to the top. One doth not make a round. They have matched their earlier show against BDS, but they still have to build from it. They still have to see if they can dig some more rounds out of a tough NIP. It's a start. Can they add more sentences to a story potentially of some success?
That's it. They're turning over the page here, trying to continue writing up until the next chapter that will start tomorrow. Well, that could have either gone either way, really. That gunfight where Grixa repelling in, they had the information. Julio had the information. If that gunfight would have gone his way, suddenly it's a 1-on-1, and the last member is also outside, doesn't have the diffuser, 20 seconds left, and that is suddenly turning into quite a grim story for the side of the Soniqs. We're not going to the top floor yet once again, though. NIP, they're deciding to bring it to the archives, and the tellers deciding to continue their rotation instead of running it back, something Soniqs did just before this.
Okay, Soniqs, taking a round, second of the game, your fourth of the day. Will this lead to some confidence? Will this lead to you leaning against NIP a little bit more? You found that first take, and that's a very important statistic, because that entry, that frag, is something that really does drive home a lot of the rest of the round, and the confidence that you can swing for these firefights with. You have to put yourself into it. Otherwise, you'll quickly get taken out.
You will indeed. And as NIP is setting up their defensive yet once more. Aggressive shields. We will see the alibi Prismas to come through. Of course, the vigil on Psycho as well. Talking about Psycho, he just went for a jump out, went for the kill, decided to go for the second one because he's seen that before, you know, back when one of the earlier Bane games, someone is around that position, you know what, so let me just try and swing for it. Unfortunately, wasn't able to win that gunfight, however, that would have been actually amazing though if he would have gotten that one. That would have been a nail in the coffin as well for the side of the Soniqs. But they keep it even for now, 4-4. But they have, however, lost their Hibana, which is quite a big loss.
Yeah, obviously we talked about how this map has sort of limited modus of hard destruction operandi, and Hibana probably has a little bit more of a stretch depending on the site itself. Usually the hatches for this take are going to be open anyway, and a lot of teams will often fall themselves back here. It seems like they are closed, so you still have Super with some explosives, but for a lot of teams, you want those to take across from the lobby side. You want those to open up the big monolithic walls over there instead to put some pressure onto the backside of the core site itself. Pino is quite injured and put some bullets towards the toes of Rexon, but he's able to slip his way back to the top and force them to an uncomfortable situation.
There's the Soniqs now trying to take control of that top floor, something they haven't done before, but is quite crucial. If you're going to be taking this site, you need to force them outside of the actual site, force them towards the open area for them to have any impact. What's Pino doing up here? He has the opportunity to just shut down Rexon, but he should be aware if he just activates the Inox scanner. He has the opportunity to see that someone went up on that top floor. I believe he just got a scan out. I'm not quite sure on who it was. It's going to be at the bottom of blue, and that will be Pino that picks him up from the stock room. He just rotated up. I said he could be picking up these kills, and yes, he did, at least with one. Grix, however, he makes the response happen, and a minute is left in a 3-on-3 situation with Pino still on low HP.
But it looks like they want to come back up the stairs. Now he's bought a friend, and that's dangerous, because it gives them the chance at a swing. Julio goes down, though, and the friend isn't quite there to put a little bit of revenge in. 45 seconds and a bold play might cost them here now, as Pino is still exceptionally injured. This pairing, though, of Musi and Pino has been a big tour de force for the team before, and they're going to see if they can once again send a body to the top, and this time it's Musi that heads up and finds a body. 28 seconds, and they're going to see if they can slip their way through onto the site, but with the control that Musi has from deep, it doesn't need it. Pino gets one more. It's a 2 versus 1. Super goes next, and NIP find their second of the day. This one a lot more comfortable than their earlier fight, but unfortunately for Soniqs, it's been a rough day at the office in Sweden.
It definitely has been, and now it's time for them to go for a quick reset up until tomorrow, because that's when they will play again. That's when 2 more of their group games will be coming through. But it will also start to become do or die for them, so they really need to get some extra points tomorrow, otherwise they might be out. But before we break that any further down, let's go to a quick break.
What does it take to create the future of a gaming community? Join us on this 4th episode of I Call Next as we discover how to level up gameplay and reset the expectations of an entire league. PayPal. Press play.
Easy going right there. One more to go.
Welcome back to the desk here. We just had another quick game. It was NIP that beat the Soniqs with a 7-2 scoreline. So NIP, they might have started off a bit rough against Invictus. They're definitely starting to be on their roll now. And what a game it was.
For one of the teams, I think yes.
Yes.
Unfortunately for Soniqs, and you could sort of see it on the cameras, it's been a long day for them. They had a very tough day, and there's no denying that. They opened against BDS, who were one of the tournament favorites.
Yeah.
They then followed up with a game against NIP, who'd been shaken awake by the fourth team in the group by a close run game that went in NIP's favor. It's tricky to get yourself into that as a new team. They put up some valiant rounds, but a rough day today, a fresh day tomorrow, and there's still a lot of games left ahead of them. This one, though, the bank, it was NIP that cashed out.
It's definitely NIP that cashed out here. It is 7-2, and I think it was, you know, normally we would say time management is a bit of an issue for them, but not really that much here today. Of course, in the early rounds, yes, slightly so, but as time went on, they got quicker and quicker, but also smarter about how the Soniqs play. Because if you remember one of the rounds, they didn't even need to enter the site because the Soniqs came to them and took the gunfights towards them. And they just had to open up the wall. That's all they needed to do. The Soniqs just brought out the kills to them.
And that was one of those sort of moments that you could see the frustration coming through from the side of Soniqs. It was just things not quite hitting the mark. They weren't quite able to find the connections. They tried different things. They went for different plays. They went for aggression. They went to try and build some ideas up. But NIP have this habit of that intel game. They're great on bank. The region's good on bank. They can be a bit fast and a bit sharp, which is sometimes where they stumble on bigger, heftier maps. And that led to a 5-1 half, led to a 6-1. A lot of rounds ahead of them. It's not easy.
It's definitely not going to be easy for them, especially not if you keep in mind what matches are ahead. But before we do that, before we talk about the standings, we have the scoreboard here in front of us. And well, Pino is one of the members whose name we kept on shouting out many times. But Kamikaze and Muzi also really close behind him there, all on 78% cost. Everybody actually of NIP on 78% cost, which means there's only 1 or 2 rounds that none of these players had any impact.
That's the risk as well, because you sort of look at the stats on the far side of NIP, all of them operating on a solid game. It's dangerous when every single prong is sharp, and that was one of the problems that we kept on seeing Soniqs run into, is they weren't quite able to connect with NIP. Sometimes it's a situation where the game just isn't your game, or the day isn't your day. This game, they couldn't quite get the sharpness we've seen them able to play on NAL play days. That sort of aggression and confidence wasn't quite connecting with that control and the cool of NIP, who had these moments where they went for double swing-ins, they were able to punish trades. Consistently a problem for Soniqs today.
Yeah, definitely so. And with that, both these teams will close out their first game of the group stages. One is looking a bit better than the other in the standings, so you know what, let's just pull those up in the meantime as well. And we're talking about Group C, of course. BDS was able to already pick up those 6 points, a little bit more convincing than NIP was, just by 2 rounds, however. So that game between them two tomorrow is going to be a banger of a matchup as well. Invictus Gaming International actually managed to best the Soniqs for now with a +4, or rather a 4-round differential. So tomorrow could be a very deciding day, because we could see one of the teams basically be confirmed already, whereas we could also see one of the teams be basically, well, not really on their way home, because they still need to play the next 2 days, even if you're already out. But it could be that they don't have an opportunity of making it even to the playoffs.
That's it, and that's the major play. But again, we've sort of seen and talked about how these teams are learning experiences from this, and it's only the first day. It's sure, you know, 33% of the games, but you still have 66 left. You still have the 2 days.
Yeah.
And rematches as well, and that's always the important thing. They each play each other twice. There is a learning period. There is a time for them to throw themselves in. A team that is more confident might be able to, I guess, be punished more.
It's a double round robin, so there is always that second chance to bring it around and potentially win that head-to-head by besting the opponent's score. But there's still one more game to go on the stream here today. Do not go anywhere. We will be back soon.